watch this. After episode 2, you have two choices: leave the lodge or stay and keep documenting. Leaving is not really a decision. Leaving means money, and you do not have money that month. The lodge is cheap, the lodge is close, you have already survived the cameras. You tell yourself you can manage a system you have already detected. That is the mistake. One layer detected. The lodge has more. This is what your days look like 3 weeks after the camera sweep. Wake up at 7, statistics lecture until noon. Come back to the lodge, edit YouTube videos until 2 a.m. Sleep on the concrete floor for 3 or 4 hours. Repeat. Other students argue in the corridor about generator time. Someone has music too loud. The lodge president sends a WhatsApp about unpaid water bills. The lecturer talks about probability distributions like nothing is happening in your life at 11:47 p.m. Normal chaos continuing around something you are not sure is real yet. The paranoia does not announce itself. It accumulates in small adjustments you make without deciding to. You start leaving your door open a crack when you edit so you can hear the corridor. You start eating at your desk because the kitchen feels wrong after 10 p.m. and you cannot explain why. You start sleeping with your notebook on the floor beside you instead of on the desk. You tell yourself you are just being careful. You tell yourself careful is not the same as afraid. It is 2:47 a.m. You open the drink on your desk without thinking and keep editing. Signal starts refusing corridors. Not dramatically, not every night, occasionally enough that you eventually notice. The east corridor after 11 p.m. The stairwell after the generator goes off. He does not growl. He simply stops and will not move forward. The first time it happens, you pick him up and carry him past. He is completely fine on the other side. Normal dog, eating, sleeping, following you around normally. Until a few nights later, same corridor, same point, same refusal. You write it down because you write everything down. You are not sure it means anything yet. A student down the hall tells you old lodge buildings make sounds. He says it cheerfully over noodles at midnight. Pipes expand at night. The structure settles. It is just an old building. You nod. You go back to your room. Signal is completely normal beside you, sleeping, legs twitching from a dream. You think he is probably right. You have been on 3 hours of sleep for weeks. Exhausted brains generate patterns that are not there. You almost convince yourself. You scroll Instagram for 20 minutes. You fall half asleep. Then at 11:47 p.m. the footsteps start. Same pace, same direction, same as the night before. Footsteps upstairs above your room. You check the time, 11:47 p.m. You write it down and tell yourself it is another student. Same schedule every night. Night shift worker, insomnia. You go back to editing. The following night you are half asleep and you hear them again. You check your phone, 11:47. The third night you almost miss them because you fell asleep with your laptop open. You wake up mid-footstep and check the time, 11:47. You notice the last 11 minutes and stop. You do not connect any of these to the door timing until much later when you read back through your notebook. The pattern is only visible after you have written it down without realizing you were writing it. By the 5th night, you knock on the door of the room directly above yours the following morning. Nobody answers. You ask the lodge president which rooms are occupied on that floor. He checks his register. That section has been empty since the camera sweep. You stand outside your door and you think, water tank, pipe system, heat and pressure, expanding through the building at the same time every night, because generators in buildings both in this decade run the same cycle. You write that explanation down. It feels reasonable. You leave it open. You do not cross it out yet. Then the doors start and you almost miss them completely because you are 19 hours awake and your hand has started documenting automatically even when your brain is not fully present. 3 doors in the east corridor. You hear them opening and closing. You write the times down without thinking about it. 2 days later, you go back through your notes with the calculator at 1 a.m. eating cold rice. East door, middle door, west door, then reverse. 47 seconds each, 47. The same number as the corridor steps from the entrance to your room. The number you have been counting since the first night. You sit with that for a long time without writing anything. Some nights, nothing happens. The footsteps do not come on the 9th night. You stay awake until 1 a.m. waiting and then fall asleep on the floor. Signal sleeps the whole time. You wake up and feel foolish. You feel like a person who has been alone in a lodge for too long, manufacturing significance from the sounds an old building makes at night. You write in your notebook, missed nights, pipe explanation, still possible. And then you feel even more tired than before because you are not sure if the missed night means the pattern is not real or if something about the pattern changed. Both feel worse than nothing. The night signal stands at your door. Is a Thursday. You wake up without knowing why. He is standing in front of the door, not sitting, standing. You get up thinking he needs to go outside. He does not move toward the door. He stays positioned between you and it. You stand behind him. You listen. The corridor is quiet. The kind of quiet that keeps you awake rather than helps you sleep. You stand there for a few minutes and nothing happens and you feel ridiculous. You almost move him aside and open the door. You do not. You sit down behind signal and you wait without knowing what you are waiting for. He holds position for approximately 11 minutes. You count but lose track twice and start again. Then something changes in the corridor and signal sits and puts his head on your knee. You open the door. Empty corridor. Normal fluorescent flicker. You walk to the end and back. Nothing. You go back inside and you write 2 things in your notebook. 1. Signal blocked the door for approximately 11 minutes tonight. 2. I do not know if this is connected to anything or if my dog just did not want the door opened. You leave both in the notebook. You do not decide which is true. 4 days later, signal tracks something across the ceiling at 1:30 a.m. His eyes move east to west. Smooth. Consistent. You look up. Nothing. 2 minutes later, a gecko runs across the same ceiling and you startle badly enough to knock over your drink. You write gecko explanation for ceiling tracking. You stare at that entry. Then you write underneath. Signals tracking was slow and consistent. The gecko was fast and irregular. You cross out the gecko explanation. Then you uncross it. You cannot rule out that he heard the gecko moving before it was visible and tracked it early. You leave the entry with a line through it that you can still read underneath. Both things true simultaneously. By week 3, you have a notebook page of explanations with varying degrees of line through them. Pipe expansion, student schedule, gecko, building resonance, sleep deprivation. Most of them are still partially valid. None of them account for why everything keeps happening together on the same schedule in the same sequence. At some point, you stop being afraid and just start being tired of not knowing. You do not buy the thermal camera because you want to find something. You buy it because nothing else separates the noise from what the building actually produces on its own. The thermal camera arrives Thursday. You test it on normal things first. Your own body, signal, the window, the floor. You learn what the building's thermal noise looks like on the display before you point it anywhere specific. You wait until 11:30 p.m. Position yourself below the upper floor. 11:47 p.m. The footsteps begin above you. You look at the display. There is something inconsistent, partial. A warm area moving across the display in roughly the same direction as the footsteps, not a clear shape, fading at the edges. You write, inconclusive, something or building thermal noise, cannot confirm from one reading. You sweep the ground floor hallway. There is residual heat in a pattern that could be footsteps if you measure generously. Gaps in the pattern. Some overlap with the building's own thermal mass. The east corridor door handles show more heat around the east door than the others, less around the middle, barely anything around the west. The sequence you documented does not confirm cleanly. You write partial correlation. You are not documenting events anymore. You are trying to separate what the building does from what something else does. You are not sure you can tell the difference yet. The stairwell is the last space you check. The one signal refuse. You point the camera at the wall between the second and third step from the top. An area of warmth concentrated against the wall. Not a clear shape, not a defined outline. Irregular at the edges. Not moving, not dissipating over the 3 minutes you hold the camera on it. You lower the camera. You look at the stairwell with your eyes empty. You raise the camera again. Still there, approximately. It does not match anything else you recorded tonight. Everything else was moving. This is not moving. You write, unknown. Standing outside the pattern. No classification. Here is what you know after the thermal sweep. There is partial evidence consistent with movement in the upper corridor. There is partial evidence consistent with handle contact on the east corridor doors. There is unexplained concentrated warmth in the stairwell that does not match the pattern of anything else you recorded. None of this confirms anything cleanly. All of it is more than nothing. You write in your notebook, evidence of something I still cannot classify. The data increased. The explanations did not. Signal refused the stairwell before you had any instrument to point at it. He stopped at the entrance, planted himself, would not go forward. You documented the refusal without understanding it. The thermal display showed you concentrated warmth in that space that does not behave like anything else in the building. You do not know if those two observations are connected. You do not know enough to say, I linked the camera in the description because some of you asked how I tested the building. That is the only reason it is there. You are still here. 3 to 4 hours of sleep, editing until 3 a.m., lectures at 8 a.m., cold food at 1 a.m., drink on the desk half forgotten. The lodge around you continues its normal chaos. Generators, arguments, music through walls, someone laughing at something down the corridor. And underneath all of that, at 11:47 p.m., something moves through the upper corridor on a schedule that has held for 3 weeks with one missed night you cannot account for. And in the stairwell, something sits against a wall, producing warmth your eyes cannot locate. And signal is asleep on your feet right now, like a completely normal dog. You are still counting. The lodge has more layers. Episode 4 begins with the notebook. not the first one. The second one, the graph paper one you hid, the one the system should not know about. You wake up on a Sunday morning and open it to a page you have not written on yet. There is an entry already there in your handwriting, dated 3 days in the future, documenting events that have not happened yet. You have partial evidence of something you cannot classify. You have a dog who sometimes refuses spaces you cannot explain, and something in this lodge has just written in your firewall.